Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, both virtually and in person. We've got a great lineup of panelists moderated by our wonderful Undersecretary, Christy Birdsong. Very excited. And then we've got, towards the end here, we'll have some light refreshments in the bistro from a local LGBTQ owned pizza shop or pizza parlor. So stick around and stay tuned, and I'll kick it over to Undersecretary Birdsong.
Thanks, Dee. Hi, everybody. Hello. Welcome to our panelists. I think this is the largest panel we've had so far. So I'm really excited to get started on questions, but I do like to start kind of with two things. In general, it's Pride Month. Happy Pride. Happy Pride to all of you in this room and all of you out there who are watching. One thing I like to remind everybody too, Pride parades are a really festive part of the month of June, but it's also kind of a sobering thing to recall how Pride marches started. And that was back with the Stonewall riots in New York in 1969. In 1969, it was illegal to serve alcohol to gay and lesbian people. That did not stop them from partying and having a good time, though. So, of course, there were these underground bars all over, and law enforcement would periodically raid them, which just added to the sense of terror and anxiety and fear of trying to go about your life and living your life. One day, the patrons at the Stonewall Inn in New York had had enough. They fought back. There were riots. There was a standoff for days. This was the first time in US history that gay rights were prominent in national news. So after the riot, that's when the marches start. They were marches of support for what happened in Stonewall, New York. Fast forward to today, I think it's fair to say they are marches of pride and celebration and unity and community. And we've come a long way. There's still a ways to go. I'm sure you all can tell me more than I even know. And I'm especially grateful that you're here today to talk about challenges, the celebratory aspects and the challenges too. It helps with educate other people who are unfamiliar with LGBTQ and people who are at different places in their journey. So it's really important that you're here, and I'm grateful. So let's jump in on some questions. Let's get the conversation going. This is a softball one I like to ask all of my panels. Just let's go through, introduce yourself and tell us what you do at CDFA and how you came to be here. Let's start on this side. Oh, and yes, I'm just going to have you introduce yourself rather than me going through all the introductions. But let's start with you, Edward.
Hi, I'm Edward. I work in the Pest Detections Emergency Projects branch. I help coordinate our fruit fly and other emergency pest response programs. I came to CDFA right about 5 years ago, and I've enjoyed working here since.
We're so glad you're here. Thanks, Ed. Ed or Edward?
Usually Edward.
Gotcha. Siobahn.
Hi, my name is Siobahn Reid. I am an service desk analyst with IT here. Most of my job involves solving other people's problems. I've worked with literally everyone from Karen Ross all the way at the top down to, agricultural technique, all the way down the chain of command to people who are working agricultural techs, office techs, you name it. I've helped people out. Some amount of interfacing with county staff too, although that doesn't happen a whole lot. I came to CDFA about 6 years ago as a student assistant, and it's where I've been since then.
We're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And I have had your help. I've been lucky enough to have you help me several times. In fact, Siobahn was helping. We had some tech issues in the beginning, and I heard Siobahn give her universal word of advice, which is take a breath, put your password in.
Also, have you turned it off and on again?
Yeah, that too. Thank you. Gina, hello.
Hi, I'm Gina Saldana. I work in HR. I am a personnel supervisor, started as a personnel specialist about 3 years ago. Came from retail, so it's been awesome working for the state, having that Monday through Friday solidified job. So it's been nice, but yeah, just about 3 years.
Well, we're about the same. I've been here a little over 3 years. Yeah,
Okay.
good. Tad.
Hi, I'm Tad Naquin. I work with the Center for Analytical Chemistry based in Meadowview. I work with a team, a regulatory analysis team. We basically focus on product compliance with different fertilizer samples that you may get off the shelf, making sure that they match what's on the product label. I work with a great team. I love where I work and the people I work with, and I've been doing it for about 2 years.
Thanks, Tad. Glad you're here. Your work is definitely part of what we talk about, or I talk about when I'm with groups about how we serve consumers and make sure that the marketplace is fair and equitable and people are getting what they pay for. It's a big part of what we do here at CDFA. We do a lot of things, but the consumer-facing part is important to remind people.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Hello, Jeff, and welcome back.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Cesca. I do not work for the department, but I did from 1990 to 2020 when I retired. Started in the budget office for 4 years with the Division of Admin, then moved to marketing, and I went from admin assistant to supervisor to special assistant and ultimately director.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming back, for putting your retirement on hold for a couple of hours today. We're glad to have you. So considering this is Pride Month, and I talked about already kind of the public side of Pride, the parades, the parties. Oh, and then there's do we call it rainbow washing? All of this, the gear that's for sale. There's just the very public part of it, but then there's the private part of it too, the personal part of Pride. So that's my next question. And I'll start over here with you again, Edward, if that's okay. But what does Pride Month mean to you personally?
I've always enjoyed it as a way to see like the other shades and colors of just people in general. I wasn't out until sometime in college, so I used Pride Month as a way to like learn a whole lot more about the community I was entering into, and always surprised to learn more. And I think a lot of it's great. I really enjoyed learning more about, other people, other things people get up to, what they do, how they style themselves, how they present themselves to the world. So that's been one of my kind of biggest interests, is just learning that there's a lot more options out there than what was presented to me in childhood, basically. So.
That's wonderful. That must have kind of been mind-blowing also, in a way, seeing all of the variety and the diversity and the different ways to be.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of fun the first few years learning a bunch of stuff, and then, kind of trying out some things, and then kind of finding my niche in the community. So, yeah.
Was that fairly easy, enjoyable process to find your niche and where you fit? Were people mostly welcoming and
For the most
happy to
part,
share?
yeah, for the most part, people within the community were definitely accepting. Thankfully, a lot of the people immediately around me were. I did lose quite a few friends, but it was kind of easier than I thought it would be. Yeah, I think overall it was a pretty easy and pleasant experience.
Glad to hear that. I'm sorry for the loss of friends, but I imagine that the friends that you have gained are 10,000-fold.
Yeah, it was hard in the moment, but then it made more room for more. It made more room for more things, I guess is a good way of putting it.
Authentic friendships.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks, Edward. How about you, Siobhan? What does Pride Month mean to you?
This is kind of a hard question to put together an answer to. 'Cause for a lot of people, Pride Month is like, it's the month to be extra visible, to be very, at least today, it's that celebratory thing, here we are, we're not going anywhere, we're here, we're queer, we're here to stay. But at the same time, for me, it's a reminder of how much more there is to do to be inclusive of and equitable for everyone, not just people who fit into neat little boxes. there's a lot, you know, there's the rainbow washing, but there's also a lot of people who are part of the queer community who end up kind of disappearing. You know, trans men, people who are bisexual, non-binary people, the list goes on. And I think it's important that we, even as we celebrate how far things have come, that we don't forget anyone or leave anyone behind.
Yeah. Thanks for that reminder. And that is like the beauty of the fascinating part of human gender and sexuality is that it is inherently difficult to fit into boxes and categories. Like the ones that we put in, try to fit everybody in, even though like we're adding LGBTQ, I, intersex, asexual, plus for non-binder, the gender fluid. Like I think there's an attempt to acknowledge that, but it's always going to fall short because there's no way that we can put this net out and just capture the fullness of who we are.
Personally, I use the word queer where most people would use LGBTQIA plus because it's a queer is for me, a very big umbrella that has space for everyone instead of trying to put a label on every detail of how someone feels about themselves and how they choose to present and all these other things.
And of course, it's empowering to take back that word, isn't it? When it used to be a slur, and now we use it as a positive, inclusive description, loudly and proudly. Gina. Sorry, sometimes I get down these little rabbit holes. So.
And it's hard to follow that up because I feel the same.
I have a lot of big thoughts about things.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I kind of narrowed it down just to education and awareness. For me, I actually, this past Sunday, marched in my first Pride Parade. And yeah, so doing that, I literally almost was brought to tears by how much love you felt. You're in the middle of that. Everybody's rooting for you. Everybody's, you know, whoever you are. It didn't even matter if you were queer or part of the LGBT community. Everybody just supported and really made me feel like it is okay to be me.
So I'm curious, why was this your first one?
So I've been to many Pride events like in San Francisco, just never had the opportunity. Last year I wanted to do it, but something else came up, but this was my first and I truly enjoyed it and I will be doing it every year from now on.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It is fun. I hope everybody saw the blogs, our blog post and all the pictures, all of the representation from CDFA made me really proud just to see us representing this department and our value of inclusivity and just enthusiastic inclusivity. Thanks, Gina. Hey, Tad.
So discovering what Pride Month meant to me was a bit of a journey. And it's still an ongoing journey. I grew up in like a very small rural town in South Louisiana, and I didn't have like it wasn't part of the culture to have that sense of pride in who you were. And since I'm so very lucky to be living here now and being where I am surrounded by people who are supportive, and that definitely shows up during Pride Parade festivities, during Pride Month. Some of the aspects of Pride Month that is most important to me because of that reason is the visibility. It is a time to celebrate without forgetting the past, but it's also a way to create a safe space and make a path forward for anyone who might be watching or just the next generations. As long as we keep that space in the public eye of this is a time to celebrate, I feel like we can continue to hand that down to the next generation after us. Just like how it was something for me that I had to discover in my own time. It was very impactful. So I think just the amount of people, and just going off of like what Gina was saying, like you kind of show up there and it could be the festival, it could be the parade, and you're surrounded by so many people that you didn't even know was in your community. And it really speaks to you when you, especially if you feel alone in any way, like this, you're surrounded by people, and this is the time to make it seen and make it visible.
It's comforting in a way,
It
isn't it?
is.
You could go through all day and kind of wonder, am I in my community? And those are times when you are absolutely 100% certain you're surrounded. That's wonderful. Thanks, Tad. How about you, Jeff?
When I saw this question, I looked back over, I've been out for about 40 years, 41 years. So I think my approach, or what Month means to me personally, I think I just take it literally back to be proud of who you are and be proud of the roles you play in your life. You know, we may be a partner or a spouse or a husband or wife, we might be a coach, we might be a parent, we might be a son or a daughter. Celebrating those roles, celebrating what makes us unique as a person. And just as important though, celebrating commonality, or it brings us together. My partner and I travel quite a bit, and everyone says, oh, what do you enjoy about traveling? The sights, the food, and it always comes back to meeting people. And I think I'm not the type to say, hi, I'm Jeff, I'm gay, this is my partner. I always approach it from a commonality: kindness, respect, dedication, support, civility. That brings people together. That opens up a dialogue for discussion. That brings up understanding. So I sort of take it at a very common level. And so I've always said, be proud of who you are, be proud of your differences, but also celebrate commonality. You watch the news, not a lot of commonality on the news. So, and in my job, what did I do as a special assistant or an admin assistant or a director? I brought people together to solve a common problem or a common issue. So I've always approached life, I think, that way, where you celebrate who you are. And, you know, once people find, oh, you're a couple, that's great. Then you can maybe open up and talk a little bit more about me as a gay man. But the conversation usually starts out as, oh, you like to travel. Oh, you've been married for 50 years. And you talk about things that you can build a foundation on or a relationship on.
Right.
So,
Right. You don't lead with that. That's good to remember. That's really good advice. I'm curious, in your travels, there are places in the world that aren't safe. So when you and your husband think about where you want to go, do you have to like do your homework and your research, or?
yeah, we certainly take that into account. I don't think we've gone to any country where gays and lesbians were not tolerated. It may be, it's okay, you just don't show affection, or you don't, you know. So, and that's, I grew up in the 80s and 90s where that's what I did. I blended in.
Mhm.
So we're not, you know, so usually we like Europe.
And
like
you know
Europe.
what's in common? Everybody does.
That's right, there we go.
Yeah, and I was doing the math in my head too, and kind of you came of age during a particularly tumultuous time.
Yep. Age was alive and well. It just, it wasn't a particularly fun coming out period of time. I survived it. I have therapy bills to prove it. You know, but thankfully I had a supportive friends, supportive family. It was an evolution of acceptance for a lot of people. But and when I came to the department in 1990, the people in the department were very different. And the perspective was a very traditional agriculture, where now we have so much inclusivity, so much diversity with the employees, the base stakeholders that we deal with, and things of that sort. So it's nice to see it finally happen over a period of time and in my lifetime. So.
Yeah, a lot has changed in your lifetime, and that didn't just happen organically. Like there was fight behind that, and that you were a part of.
At times, yes.
At times. Anybody know Hannah Gadsby? comedian, a queer comedian. They have this bit on the Pride Parade. I just want to mention it because it just makes me laugh. They're kind of a quiet person, even though they're a performer. And then when they were the first time exposed to the Pride Parade, it was, colors and costumes and music and so much loudness. And Hannah Gadsby is someone who is much more quiet and reserved. And their first take was, oh, where are all the quiet gays? They were very. I thought that was funny. Again, kind of just reflecting that, the queer LGBTQ community is just as varied as the straight. And there are a lot of us that don't do parades either. Too loud, too loud. Well,
If you ask where are all the quiet gays, I'll say we're hanging out. We're there. We're just hanging out in the back.
Or they're at home petting their dog.
yeah, parade's not for everybody, that's true, but it certainly serves its important purpose. Jeff, kind of you started talking down this kind of avenue, but my next question for all of you is, how has your experience as queer or LGBTQ plus shaped your views on other aspects of your life, whether it's your career or your personal relationships? Should we start with you, Jeff? We'll come on this. I'll start with you next, Gina. We'll go in the middle.
God.
I would say, I think what I'm coming back down to is what my parents and my grandparents taught me was to work hard every day in every aspect of your life. Be a good employee. Work hard at developing strong relationships with your kids or your church, things of that sort. So I was not able to, I think my generation, if you talk to a lot of individuals who are in their 60s, gay wasn't accepted. So what a lot of us did is we put energy into our careers and our relationships. Gay was sort of in the background, in the closet. So our focus, at least my focus, how it affected me is I need to be a good employee. I need to be a supportive son. I need to be a good spouse. I need to be a good uncle to all my nephews and nieces. So I think I took, because I wasn't able to express myself as a gay man, even when I came out, my family was Italian, Catholic, it wasn't discussed. When I brought home the other half, we really didn't talk about that. Oh, so-and-so, Arthur's coming to dinner. Okay, Arthur likes, this type of food. So I think my focus may be very different in some place, or my approach. I just went back to the commonality, working hard, enjoying life, and showing what skills and abilities and traits that I had that could contribute to that particular role. And then at one point, oh, you're gay. I mean, I don't think I was out when I was here necessarily until probably the last 5 or 7 years of my career when I started training, and I slowly incorporated personal examples into my training. So I think I took a more, and once again, I did the parades. I haven't gone to one in a while, but I always took sort of a background, sort of like Edward said, background, supportive role, and being just a good person in general. And then people would go, oh, you're gay. And then judging if people were accepting of that or not. And if they weren't, education, information, sharing, finding commonality, and building a relationship that way. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's very positive. I'm hearing too that pressure almost to compensate during a time when it wasn't accepted, and maybe you had to internalize some difficult personal feelings about that, and the way you compensate is excel. I think that's pretty common too.
You could be my therapist. Thank you.
No. You could probably be mine.
All right, there we go.
Todd, what are your thoughts?
Thank you.
I got you. I got you.
It was in regards to how being part of the LGBT identity affects your personal life, right?
Personal, professional, whatever direction you want to go on that one.
I definitely felt it was a huge struggle for me. I feel like it hampered me a bit. I felt like I couldn't be completely myself. I felt like I, at least growing up and largely until I was in college, where I actually started meeting other people that I felt comfortable sharing with. But it was I think it was kind of exhausting, to be honest, because you have to, at least I did, I have to put on a mask or I have to be a certain way. And I avoided people. I avoided people that I felt was threatening, and maybe they weren't, but I made a lot of assumptions out of self-protection, out of like protecting my feelings or maybe just protecting physically myself. Like didn't feel comfortable. So early in life, it had like a lot of negative aspects that I had to overcome. But I just have to say a lot of that, now that it's behind me and at the background, there is a lot that it can do for you to improve you as a person. Resilience, self-reliance, independence, gaining that pride and a bit of freedom in your own agency and not holding yourself back. So I do think that that it has changed me for the positive over time. And we'll see where it goes in the future. I think it'll only get better from here.
I love that. I love that you're so forward looking and that you are in a place in your journey. It's a journey. It's
It
not
is.
like I'm out and I'm there and I'm done. It's a whole personal growth to continue on.
It definitely is.
Can I ask a question? And I think probably a lot of cis people might have this question too, but what age did you know you were gay or trans? Yes, yeah, go ahead.
That is probably one of the that's one of the simplest questions that has the most complex possible answer. Because I knew for sure, I knew for sure I'm Siobahn, I'm a woman 5 years ago, but looking back over my own personal history and like my relationship with my mother, there are things in my history, in that relationship, in who I was before I knew that, where it was like, oh, that's where that came from. Like, so there's a certain amount of like, you kind of always have been. The question is whether or not you're able to recognize it and then what you do about it.
Mhm.
I think, at least.
Yeah, no, I had the same experience. I always knew something was different compared to everybody else, and I didn't know what it quite was until I knew, and that's exactly what happened.
And how old were you when you knew?
I knew when I was little. Again, I was attracted to women. I was like, that's weird, but I didn't come out until high school.
Interesting. Anybody else want to take that?
For the record, to complete the question, I was 28.
28.
I'm 33 now, so that gives you kind of an idea of the spread of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
I've always known since a very young age. I'm not sure how old I was, but I knew something was different. I didn't have the words for it. I didn't have the vocabulary for it. And that, I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone else, but that was the frightening part,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the part that kind of like made you want to stay in the corner and like watch everyone else first, see how they're acting and what they're doing and how they are. I came out to friends and then family, close family, when I was 19, but it was sometime during high school where I was struggling. Like I felt like I had to make a decision. Am I going to live the rest of my life being like in a lie, basically, because I thought that was one of two decisions, or am I gonna come out and see what happens? And it took me a while to do that. And yeah, in college next, then I came out broadly to my friends and anyone else. So it took me a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think looking back, the signs were there, but I didn't get fully kind of clued in until probably early high school. So when I realized like, okay, I'm not on the same wavelength as most people right now. And then I was able to kind of put concepts to words to concepts, I guess. And I heard someone describe I forget the exact way to phrase it, but there's like multiple closet doors you exit.
Hmm.
Like the first one to yourself, the first one's to like your close people, then your closer-ish people, and then publicly kind of thing. So it's like there's multiple stages to coming out too. And the first one is like you always have to recognize it in yourself. But yeah, my mom said a funny line. It was right after I came out. She told me like, "Oh, I remember this conversation we had. I must have been 6 or something." She asked, "Oh, what kind of woman do you think you'll marry when you grow up?" And I said, "I'm not going to get married. I'm going to drive a fast car." So looking back, it's always been there.
Oh, that is really interesting. Thank you all for sharing. Jeff, did you want to add?
Last century, I think I was 14, probably February, March 1978. I remember sort of the moment where, oh, I like that person, and it wasn't a woman or a girl. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, it's been a while,
Yeah.
but it took another 7 or 8 years for me to get comfortable with it. So
What strikes me is this common theme of not having a language and feeling isolated, like you're the only one who feels this way. You all probably have interactions with kids now these days. I've got 3, and they love schooling me on everything LGBTQIA, like the terminology, what each thing means. We've got pride flags up in our house that they loved explaining to me what all the different colors are. It is very different now. And of course, depending on where in this country, where in this state your family is. But I can tell you the Bay Area, anyways, where I live, the language is there. And it's just fascinating to see kids in middle school going by different names, and they're all cool with it. All cool with it. And in fact, they find it interesting and exciting in getting to know each other, these aspects of their personalities. It's a different time in some places.
Yeah.
Again. Gina, did you want to pick up on our question, kind of on how LGBT, how
Oh,
queer
yeah.
kind of informs you personally, professionally?
Yeah, I think for me, it was or is, I'm just me. And that's how I kind of always taken it. When I did come out, I did go to therapy. And it was something my mother suggested I do. And the one thing I remember, the only thing I took out of all of that was sexuality is a very small part of who you are. And so I told myself, I'm going to present myself in a way that people are going to say, this is a good human, and kind of change people's perceptions of that. And I remember my high school best friend, his name was Chris, and his mom, when everything was happening about, that where they weren't let us get married, what she said was, what about Gina? And for me, that made the world, because I changed somebody who was religious, and they said they're starting to think about people other than what's in their world. So I thought that was pretty cool. And so that's how I've always lived my life, is like, I'm just going to present myself as, this person's pretty cool. I want to hang out with her and have fun. And she's just Gina.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
My answer is kind of the inverse of the question. So it's not that being queer has shaped my views on other aspects of my life, but the other aspects of my life shaped the circumstances where I could be myself. It's like I try hard to be kind, and I try to treat other people with the same kind, with the kindness that I want to receive. And I don't think I would be able to be sitting here now as myself if I didn't have that viewpoint on how to treat other people in life and in general. And I think all of us kind of expressed, like, when we were younger, we felt isolated and even ostracized. And then you learn, like, one of the things that experience can teach you is not to trust other people, or that people need more trust. People need to be shown that kindness isn't earned. It's just something you get from other people. If that makes any sense at all.
So kindness, you just lead with kindness in all situations and expect it in return.
I lead with kindness and I presume the other person is going to be kind. Like presumption in good faith. If they end up not being kind, then we deal with that as it is.
You always hope that people rise to the occasion. when you-
Exactly.
When you approach them with that expectation that they will meet it.
And I mean, I think that definitely has informed a lot of my choices about like being openly trans in a very small state department, but also just generally in my life. I know a lot of other trans women in the world focus very strongly on whether or not they pass. They have a lot of insecurities about whether or not they pass. And for me, it's, I'm going to be kind to myself first. I'm going to be comfortable existing as myself and ask the world to take me as that and give that kindness back.
That kindness to yourself is really, really important. Really important. Thanks. Hi, Edward.
I think for me, being gay, growing up thankfully, I grew up in a fairly supportive environment, and I've known a lot of people who haven't. And so first, it gave me a lot of gratitude for what I have, and it also, how do I phrase it? I had it in my head and then I lost it. I kind of came of age and was realizing I'm gay. This was right after that it was right after 9/11, and it was that big patriotic push we had as a country where there was a lot of like moral standards being placed on people. And that showed me that there's a lot of hate behind a good smile, I guess is a way to phrase it. It helped me learn that there are ugly truths to the world that are hidden behind bright colors or a friendly smile, and to learn to read between the lines a little bit. It also showed me that there are moments and people of true, like wholesome, earnest, like wonderful love. There's like this false words and hatefulness, but there's also this really deep, earnest love in the world. And it helped me read that a little bit better, to try to identify. Like I said, I lost a lot of friends when it came out, and it was a lot of friends who were very publicly presenting as happy and friendly, but inside they were not very happy and friendly. And that gave me some early lessons. And I kind of, as a result of that, I've always been a little bit more guarded. I haven't necessarily had a pessimist view of the world, but it has, early on, it taught me to just hold my cards close to my chest, but still play them honestly and kindly, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-preservation,
Yeah, there was some aspect of that.
survival instinct, really. And is it ever a good time to come out? I mean, we heard a couple of different historical junctures that made it particularly tricky. I don't imagine now is a very easy time.
Yeah, I had a friend my same age. We were in first grade together and stuff. He just came out like 2 years ago or a year ago. So I don't think there's ever really a good time. It's whenever feels right, personally.
The best time is yesterday. The second best time is today.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Don't waste time.
I think for me too, it was an assumption, because anybody that meets me, the way that I dress, I present myself, they just make that assumption, which isn't necessarily wrong, but I'd rather them, again, get to know me first and let me say, oh yeah, this is who I am.
I had a colleague come out to me several years ago And I think I said something, I mean, I think I'd already known he was gay and it wasn't a big deal. So I think I said something to the effect of, oh, okay. What's the right thing to say in that situation? Which kind of leads to my next question as well. Like, what is the best way that we can show up as allies? Who wants to jump on that one?
Okay, nobody else is feeling
Go,
brave. I'll do it.
Siobhan.
So I think in your specific case with your friend with your coworker who came out to you that you kind of already knew, honestly, the response to coming out as queer, that's just kind of like a, huh, okay. And like just taking it in stride and not making it a big deal either way. I think that's almost kind of the best response.
Yeah, or thanking them and trusting them to give you that information.
Yeah.
Yes. I wish I'd said that
Yeah.
part because I imagine it was hard for him,
Hmm.
even though to me it was like, okay,
Right.
but it was a big deal to him.
Yeah.
For sure.
But to answer the broader question, as allies, there's little things, there's big things, like there's societal levels of change, right? But there's also individual stuff like, I kind of have to lean on a lot of personal stuff. Like, sometimes you correct like your pronouns with somebody who is not kind of like read in on the literature, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Like, it's this big, it's a huge production, and like, at least from my point of view, if someone uses the wrong pronouns for me or like uses the wrong name, God forbid, when I correct them, I just want them to go, "Oh, okay, sorry," and leave it at that. Like, really the biggest thing that somebody who considers himself an ally can do is just treat people with respect and also like not making it about themselves. Like, if I'm so sorry, if I were talking to Gina and I mentioned her husband and then we're like, "Oh, sorry, your wife." That's perfect. I feel like that's just a like, oops, right, correction, moving on.
Yeah.
Versus like falling apart and like freaking out about the fact that I got the gender of
Yeah,
Gina's
profusely
spouse wrong.
apologizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes it more awkward.
It makes it incredibly awkward, not just because it's somebody making a production of it, but it's also you're the person who's kind of been like, it, depending on how you feel about it, it's either like you've been wronged or it's like, well, that wasn't very sensitive of them. You're like, it's a little bit disappointing. And then you're sitting here being like, you're kind of in a situation where you have to comfort somebody who's kind of just stumbled and spilled their drink on you, metaphorically.
Right.
So it does make it all really, really awkward.
And that is not your job
Nope.
to comfort other people and make them feel okay about their reaction. How anybody else? What can allies do?
Kind of echoing it is to make it not a big deal. You just kind of, I know the best coming out I had was with a friend who was just kind of like, okay, I still love you as a friend and this won't change our relationship. And that was, oh, thank God, because I was just coming, yeah, I had just come off of like losing a friend after coming out. So that was just kind of like, oh, good. This one friend that I've known for years is still going to be someone I know for years. So for it to not be a big deal, that's one way to be a good ally. And another one is just recognizing that there's as many different ways of being people as there are people. And so there's no right or wrong way to be a person. So see people as they are, kind of thing. It's I don't know how to really phrase it, but it's I guess to be unbothered by what you see in the community, because there are people who do all sorts of things in the queer community, and it's kind of like just let people be people is a good way to be an ally.
Live and let live. Any other thoughts?
It's just kind of echoing a bit, so I won't go on for too long, but being willing to listen and understand and open to the other person's experiences, but also giving them space. Giving them space as in like this isn't the constant thing you're always talking about when you're friends with them. You know, this isn't always like the main storyline of this person's life. So I think that offers a lot of mutual respect between an ally and someone who might be part of the LGBTQ community.
I actually have a little bit to bounce off there, Tad. Another thing that like you come out and a lot of people like somebody is going to have questions if they think of themselves as an ally. And personally, I always appreciate pertinent questions that are questions that like make sense to whatever this, like whatever the situation, whatever the relationship is between myself and somebody who I've just come out to, for example, or like who I've freshly met. But it also is really important to not ask questions that you would not be comfortable answering yourself. Like
Getting too personal.
also just like if I've just met somebody or I've just come out to them, I don't really want to answer questions about what I plan to do with medicine or anything surgical or anything like that. I just want to know, like what Charles's friend said, like, I still like you as a person. This doesn't make you any lesser in my view. And then you move on from there.
That's still my answer. I think listening, I think, is critical. And listening without interrupting. You know, we're all have sometimes good intentions and we go, oh, how are you feeling today? And then 35 minutes later, you're like, why did I ask that question? Sometimes it's important just to listen, but sometimes somebody may ask a question and they just want the answer to the question, not everything else. And if somebody is uncomfortable, sometimes they don't want to know, they just want little bits of information. So I think listening, what are you being asked? Provide the information, ask questions as needed to draw out other questions or to see how comfortable the person is. And then just sort of being supportive of the questions. Because sometimes people just want to know a little bit at a time. I know when I came out to a friend, they were trying to learn and I was ready to go, blah. And I did, and unfortunately freaked out the person and the relationship took a little while to recover. So I've learned also just through my career, sometimes asking a question and listening to make sure, you know, you give the proper answer and then just slowly developing the conversation and being supportive of the conversation, you being supportive of them and them being supportive of you, because that'll open up the conversation, allow the conversation to flow and evolve, and also build trust, kindness, respect, etc.
And something we kind of keep going back to, the universals among everybody. And that, like you said, Gina, sexuality is a small part of who we are as people. And I think what you just talked through, Jeff, is a perfect framework for getting to know anybody, regardless of how they identify or their sexuality. It's time and patience and listening to each other. That's a good reminder. A really good reminder. Well, I have lots more questions, but we're kind of coming up on the end, and I know that we have a poet in our midst. Gina, can I ask you to please close us out and share your poem with us?
Yes. So I wrote this today because I was thinking of, again, just my experiences as a whole and all the questions that you were asking. And the one thing I've already noticed is that we all have some similarities. Maybe our stories are different, but there's a lot of similarities in them. So this is a little bit of mine. And also, this is the first time I've ever read a poem in public.
Cool. And it's being recorded.
Oh, great.
No, it is great. It is great.
Born in confusion, unknowing and uneducated, searching for who I am, a student, an athlete, a daughter, and a word I could not say, gay. I was not ready for who I was meant to be. I was not ready to be me. I stumbled and fell, my mother unprepared, to be supportive and there for me. But I overcame and I fought for what I believed. But even now, who you see is someone still scared to be the authentic me because others have not taken the time, made the effort to see me.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, buddy.
Justin, Dee, are we taking any questions today? Anyone have questions or comments, thoughts you want to share?
Be careful asking me questions. I have a lot of answers.
Are there any questions either from the folks online or from the folks here in the room? Leticia says beautiful. Gina.
Thank you.
Beautiful poem. Anything from the room? Oh, Leticia.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
can.
Hi, Leticia.
Hi. Thank you, everybody. I just want to say thank you. This was a great panel. I'm really proud of what we do here at CDFA, being part of the DEI committee and the Office of Civil Rights. It's just an honor. And yeah, CDFA is a great place. I've made lifelong friendships, and Jeff is one of them. Thank you, Jeff, for coming back and being on the panel, and for being my friend. Thank you.
Leticia, I want to thank you. You are one of our Pride leaders. You are a leader of all employees, but especially this month, I really see you shine and you give so much of your time and your energy and your passion to us here at CDFA. So I want to thank you for all that you do. And I'm pretty sure it's your day off. So you better log off after this.
Recovering from surgery right
Thank you, Christine. And now you made me cry.
All right, with
Any other
that.
questions?
Oh, yeah.
Going once, going twice? All right. Want to close us out, Christy?
Thank you. Just thank you to all of our panelists, every single one of you. Thank you for sharing. Again, I feel like this is just a great example of being comfortable at CDFA to share your authentic self. And important to remember that people are watching and they're learning, whether there are people on their own journey of their gender and sexuality or people who are straight and know people in their lives that maybe they've struggled with understanding or with supporting. And I hope, I'm sure that every word that you said today, everything that you shared is part of somebody's education and somebody's growth and somebody feeling comfortable and safe here. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
Thanks,
me.
everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
guys.
day.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you, Siobahn. Thank you, Edward.
Get me going. I can talk for hours.
I know, it's wonderful.